Hey, welcome to Razzball Radio on the Fantasy Sports Network. I'm Nick Capozzi, and it's Friday, so we usually climb up to the observatory with my man Sky. He has no last name, but one thing I learned yesterday as I had my first American Thanksgiving, which was awesome, is that people on Friday apparently don't show up for work or shave or take a shower. At least that's kind of the vibe I'm getting here from Sky, but I do appreciate that you are here, Sky.
I smell okay.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
Luckily, this isn't scratch and sniff television. Hey, you know what else I learned yesterday?
Yo,
The Cowboys are not a real contender.
yeah,
The Lions might be able to kind of get back on track. And
possible.
Seattle is going to win every single game for the rest of the season 19-3.
Yes. These are all facts.
So, there you go.
I'll look at it.
Before we get to the observatory, is there any key takeaways from yesterday? I mean, yesterday, I guess the only thing for me is that, Mark Sanchez might be okay.
Yeah, we had this conversation earlier this week. It was kind of funny. You were like, Mark Sanchez. Like, no, it's a system that works. I'll just put it that way. I believe in Chip. He's taken quarterbacks, even at the U of O, where he had a season in which he had three quarterbacks and still had an 8-3 record or something like that. He knows how to run his system, and he knows how to coach his QBs that are lower tiered. So.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, look, he's not a guy that I would want to start in the playoffs, but if you're in a 2 QB league or a super flex league, I guess there is the option.
Yeah. That was an inefficient red zone work though over the last couple of weeks with that team. That does concern me. They got into the red zone a lot and they saw a lot more Cody Parkey than they should have. So
Yeah, that was strange. Let me ask you another question. A lot of people did something real dumb and spent an early draft pick on the Seahawks D. And if you've been holding on to them all year, like I have in one league, it was a dynasty league. It didn't cost me nothing to get them.
yeah.
Are you actually going to get some sort of return on investment now? Because it's two really good defensive games in a row, not just low-scoring points, but turnovers and the whatnot.
I think given their schedule down the stretch, yeah. I mean, I think that weighs heavily on it. They get to face the same San Fran team again.
You get Arizona again and Drew Stanton again.
Exactly. I'm like, it's kind of the stars are aligning for them to have a good playoff run, fantasy playoff run. So.
Yeah, so if you spend a 5th-round pick on the Seahawks D, so dumb. But listen, if you held out, maybe not so dumb. Not still dumb.
Agreed.
All right, let's go to the observatory. Things that we are going to be scouting, watching, picking apart this weekend in every single game. All right, from a fantasy perspective, of course. Cleveland at Buffalo. Going into this year, this probably looked like a game that you wouldn't really care about. However,
Yeah.
Cameron's back. Gordon's back.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah Crowell's a monster.
Yep.
And Buffalo, surprisingly, the defense has been pretty good, but they do give up a lot of points to running backs. Did I just steal your thunder, or is there anything else we can talk about from this game?
Well, actually, they don't give up that much to running backs in terms of points. It's the
You're
other way
right.
around.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're really stout on the ground, especially at home. So, they've given up the fourth least amount of fantasy points per game to opposing running backs on the year. And with the Browns in a tough road environment, I'm really expecting them to feel forced to throw. So, I don't know. I think we're going to see a lot of what this offense should have looked like at the beginning of the year had they had Flash. So, it'll be interesting to see how Hoyer performs with two really good targets in Cameron and Flash. And, I don't think we're going to see much from Crowell or West in terms of fantasy production. I do think we're going to see a lot on the other side of the ball with Fred Jackson. I think he's going to have a huge game.
Interesting. One observation from the observatory that I'm currently observing, excuse me, is that your scruffy hair, if you really grow in like a scruffy, Pacific Northwest pacifist, which you are, he's Sky, our Pacific Northwest pacifist beard, it might not make your lack of product in your hair look so scruffy. Just pointing that out.
I'm just balancing things out.
All right, I don't know how to look at this game because it could be an interesting fantasy game. Might not be. Carolina at Minnesota. What are you watching?
I'm going to be looking at that backfield and just trying to figure out how many backfields Ben Tate can ruin in one season. He's I still don't quite understand the signing. It's obviously, to me, it's a lack of confidence or a vote of lack of confidence in Jerick McKinnon at this point. because they were already mixing it up with Matt Asiata, who's now also supposed to be back this week from concussion issues. So with a week of practice under Ben Tate's belt, are we going to see a three-headed monster at this point? I feel bad for Jerick McKinnon owners now. And on the other side of the ball, I'm probably trusting Kelvin, and that's about it. Cam's just been getting run over all season, and Minnesota does have a decent pass rush.
Yep, I'm with you. No, that seems it looks like what I'd be looking at if I was you.
Yeah.
Okay, Oakland and St. Louis, another game that I apologize.
Yeah.
It's all that tryptophan slowing down my breathing today. Oakland at St. Louis. Is this going to be a coming out party for Trey Mason?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, he keeps getting the touches to have. I believe he had 30 touches not more than 2 weeks ago when they beat Denver. It wasn't a huge game from him, but he did end up going over 100 yards. This is kind of a perfect storm to set up for him to have a really big game. Oakland's not very good against the run. They haven't been all season, and they're away. The Vegas has St. Louis winning by a touchdown here. So this looks to be a lot of defense, a lot of wearing down of the clock. So Trey should see, I'm looking at 30-plus touches, 140 total yards, and 1 to 2 touchdowns. I think Trey is going to have a Trey Ball day.
Way to drop some French. I love it. No, I'm with you on all that. That makes a lot of sense to me. All right, real quick, we got 1 minute. Washington at Indianapolis. Is there anything here other than how many points Luck is going to put up? Because with Colt McCoy in there, this is a guaranteed win week for the Colts.
I think I don't know. We're going to see if Colt's going to be a game manager and just be handing off a lot to Alf. They were exposed a couple of weeks ago in that game against New England. So
I'm not buying it. Washington is a disaster right now.
They are.
It's worse than having to do the dishes after Thanksgiving last night. And that was messy. Is there any chance that if the Colts get up early, not that I'm playing Andrew Luck in any leagues trying to get into the playoffs today or this weekend, but any chance that Luck comes out real quick, 10 seconds?
I highly doubt it. Washington is beaten through pass. That's how they're beaten. So I can't see him getting pulled or losing out. I think he's going to have a big day regardless.
Son of a gun. All right, I got to go. We'll be back after this break. I got to go adjust some lineups. Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Hey, welcome back to the Friday show. Nick and Sky. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick Capozzi, NickCapozzi. You can follow Sky, who has no last name, at Sky_Razzball. All right, things we are observing in particular games. I kind of look at the docket of games this week, and I'm like, this is not pretty. New York Giants at Jacksonville is another one that's not pretty. I mean, is there anything here other than maybe you're running with Eli as your guy?
I'm looking at Rashad and how is he going to perform against his former team? This is a team that kind of gave up on him. They did. They gave up on him. Kept the husk of MJD around ahead of him, and then lo and behold, in 2013, Rashad goes to Oakland, tears it up once he finally gets to start, and then Oakland goes for the retread of MJD there, and now he's in New York. So I think there's, even though there's no playoff implications here, I think Rashad would really like to show up his former team. I'm expecting a big day from him, and I think New York will give him that little extra to give him the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hear you. I mean, the Giants are out of it, so.
Yep. Yeah. Out of it on so many levels.
Yeah, really. Might be time for a coaching change there. Do you think so? You think there's any chance that Coughlin's been there forever, it seems like.
They won't do it, but yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I do think they need a new voice there. I think that's the biggest thing. It's not about whether or not he's coaching bad. It's whether or not they need a new voice there, and I think they do.
Wow, and maybe a new quarterback as well.
Yeah.
Seriously. I ain't joking.
Yeah. All right, I'm listening.
All right, one of the most interesting matchups this weekend is the San Diego Superchargers heading to B-More to take on the Ravens. What are you watching in this one, brother?
Yeah, I'm going to be watching that secondary getting torn apart, and I'm wondering who it's going to be that's going to star for the Chargers, because you can't run against the Ravens, especially when they're on their turf, but you can easily throw on them regardless. This is a team that gave up 6 touchdown passes to Big Ben This is the team that gave up 420 yards and 3 touchdowns to Drew Brees last week. I don't think Rivers is going to have that kind of game, but he also does have good options on the outside. I think we're going to see a big PPR game coming from Keenan Allen this week. I could easily see 10 to 12 receptions and maybe even pushing 120, 130 yards, possibly a touchdown in there. So monster game ensuing. And,
yeah, I need. I don't know. I keep seeing the targets to Allen. I mean, last week he did break 100, but I don't know. I hear what you're saying about the Baltimore secondary, but I'm not convinced.
Yeah.
Here's a game that's going to be a shootout because the Saints' defense is more porous than the Levies. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Sorry, that was just off the top of my head. I apologize, New Orleans. New Orleans at Pittsburgh. This is going to be – I think Pittsburgh is just going to roll here because I've been making the argument all week. If New Orleans can't win at home to take the division lead when Atlanta loses again, this team is a mess this year, and I think Pittsburgh is just going to destroy them.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think the only thing that's going to keep that counterbalanced is which Mark Ingram is going to show up. That's the only thing that's going to keep it counterbalanced. He was a monster there for about 5 weeks. In the last 2, he hasn't even rushed for over 3 yards per carry. They can be run upon, and I do think that if New Orleans is going to stay in it, it's going to be 25-plus touches again for Mark Ingram, and that's what's going to keep them afloat, especially on the road.
Listen, I think Ingram's legit. I think the issue is – well, sorry. I think just the last couple weeks strategically they've been trying to pass the ball just because they're desperate and they're not in a position to be, running out the clock. Pardon me.
Yeah.
Sorry, tryptophan tongue. So I don't know, man. I think this could get ugly, and I don't know if there's going to be a regime change in New Orleans, but this team should not have been this bad this year. One of the biggest disappointments as far as I'm concerned.
Easily.
All right, speaking of disappointments, I think Mike Smith is going to be out of Atlanta at the end of the year. Arizona heads there this week. I mean, they don't look that great with Drew Stanton, but that defense is so tough. I'm hoping because Atlanta's defense is atrocious that all those skill guys for the Cards are going to have a good game. What do you think?
I don't know about the skill guys that Drew Stanton's throwing to. You might see something from John Brown. Those two seem to have a good connection, and maybe Floyd. We'll see. But I think it might be time to start talking timeshare for Andre Ellington. He's been
brought in Michael Bush, but he's not dressing this week.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's definitely not going to be Michael Bush, but you've got Stephon Taylor there. Just the way that he's been a huge volume guy, but which has helped his fantasy season, but he's done really nothing with it. He's gained 89 yards on 47 carries the last 3 weeks. And this is the matchup that he's supposed to destroy.
I know, but that's because they've been, stacking the box and just eliminating him because Stanton is such a risky thrower.
Oh, sure. But even before that, he wasn't really doing much with his touches. It's not like he's turning
Don't knock Andre.
Everyone wants to love him, but the reality is he's been volume great, but it's a quality over quantity thing, and the quality hasn't been there. So.
All right, so if your in-laws are in town or some other family that you don't really want that are sticking around post-holiday, and you got family commitments this weekend, it's not a bad week to have them because it's not a slate of exciting games. However, if you are going to carve out 3 hours, make sure it's for the Patriots at Packers. This might be the game of the year.
Yeah, get your popcorn ready.
Get your cheese curds ready.
Yeah, I'm actually curious on this one. Bill Belichick kind of did this to us once before, and I was looking at the stat lines of these two defenses in terms of how they handle the rush. I wonder if this is going to be New England at Indianapolis all over again. I'm wondering if we're going to see a lead back performance out of New England that is maybe not a 200-yard Jonas Gray game, but I think we might be seeing a huge game from LeGarrette Blount and maybe even a time-shared huge game from him and Gray. I think Belichick's going to go up there. They're giving up the same amount of yards per rush. It's the same exploitable situation that Bill ran into last time around. I do think we're actually going to see that. I think we're going to see a low-volume passing game from Brady, and I think they're going to force Green Bay to try to stop him on the ground. I don't think they can.
All right. Listen, that's fair. I just think when you got those two quality quarterbacks. I think it's going to be a shootout, but you never know how Belichick's going to game plan it, and he does tend to figure out teams' weaknesses. So you might be bang on there. That's interesting. Hard to argue. All right, we're still going to talk about Denver and KC, but we're going to do that after the break. Plus start sits with Sky, who has no last name, Sky_Razzball. This is Razzball Radio on the Fantasy Sports Network. Welcome back. Friday here, Razzball Radio on the Fantasy Sports Network. We're talking about breaking down things we're looking at in the games, plus start sits with my man Sky. I'm Nick. Last game we're going to get to, Denver at Kansas City. You know, I wasn't buying KC. Any team that's passing game is as woeful as theirs and is so reliant on Jamal Charles. Although, look, Niall Davis is a very nice runner. He's proven he can step in if necessary, but I don't think that this is a legitimate team. Denver's coming to town. Denver, a couple tough weeks. I mean, obviously got beat up by St. Louis and, squeezed out a victory against Miami, but Dolphins definitely gave them a run.
Yeah.
What's the scenario here for you in this one, brother?
Yeah, I think we're going to find out if Travis Kelce died today on this Sunday. It's the Walrus. He keeps Andy Reid keeps game planning to stay on the ground even when you're down 2 touchdowns to the Raiders on a Thursday night football game. It was maddening to watch them salt the clock when they didn't even have the lead. But I don't think he's going to have that option this week. I do think we're going to see a reemergence of the passing game in KC. They're going to be forced to, even if it's checkdowns and even if it's little short routes. I think Travis Kelce is going to have a huge game. I also think C.J. Anderson is going to have another huge game. This is another one of those where teams, you focus on the fantasy points, you're missing out on the fact that KC gives up the most yards per attempt on the rush. So I think C.J. Anderson is going to be on that side of the ball, and we've got a big game from Travis Kelce coming on the other side.
Interesting, but I think Denver's going to win this, and I don't think it's going to be close. All right, let's get to some surprising start sits.
Yeah.
You are sitting Eli Manning, which to me is kind of I'm surprised, just because I think if you have him on your team and you have been starting him or need to start him or super flexing him. Yeah. I mean, it's the Jaguars, man. Why are you sitting them?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for me is that it's going to be, 1, it's on the road, and 2, Jacksonville is actually 3rd in the league in sacks for teams right now, and they're behind, Philly.
Who knew?
Yeah, they've got a really strong front, and getting Eli a bit jumpy doesn't seem to be that hard nowadays. So. I do think they're going to try to rely on their run game a little bit more. I think they're going to try to keep it short. It's supposed to be a close game. Eli, after a big game on TV, even though they didn't win, I don't know. He always finds ways to disappoint you. And I have a funny feeling he's going to do that in Jacksonville.
All right. Ryan Matthews, sitting him. Why is that an easy call for you? Because he looked pretty good last week.
You never look good against the Ravens. This is the team that the Ravens went into New Orleans and gave up 2.5 yards per carry to Mark Ingram, who had been rolling, basically. So to me, it's an easy call. Everyone, even though he's a lead back, I don't think he's going to be used as much out of the passing game. And I think the Chargers are going to be playing from behind most of the game, so that'll affect his touches.
All right. I know you covered this earlier, but you're sitting Jerick McKinnon this week.
Yeah, it's just Vikings aren't committed to him. I can't commit to him in my starting lineup at this point. And
well, you have commitment issues. We know about that.
And the big thing is he wasn't even getting goal line carries when he was the de facto lead back anyway. So I don't even know what to do with that. The Vikings, clearly miss Adrian Peterson and won't give. They want Matt Asiata as their next superstar.
Yeah, I'm not buying that. You were sitting Sammy Watkins. Is this because his targets keep dropping the last 3 games?
Yeah, the targets aren't there. It's gone from 10 to 7 to 5 over the last 3. And then the other thing is Joe Hayden's probably going to shadow him. Right. And I also really do think Buffalo commits to the run game heavily at home to keep Cleveland and that Flash Gordon-Jordan Cameron duo off the field.
I'm with you, man. Got to run it through the rock pile. Mm-hmm. All right, you're also sitting Coby Fleener. This to me isn't a surprise because he's not really good. He's a big faker.
Yeah. Yeah, when you T-Rex a pass in the end zone because you don't want to, mess up your Purdy hair, you ain't much of a football player. And please don't come to my house for that, Kobe. I know you're a big guy. You can take me out if you wanted to.
A little guy could take you out, Sky.
Yeah, it's just he doesn't seem to want to play football, so I don't really want to play him on my fantasy football team.
All right, you're starting Alex Smith, huh? Didn't we just talk about this?
I'm all about that volume, man. Yeah,
Uh,
they're gonna have to
hey,
play from
listen,
behind.
man. If you get 47 completions, but it's for 108 yards, that's not volume, unless you're in a per completion league.
The last time he had a big game, it was against Denver. They force you to pass. You have to keep up with Peyton and company, and that's what he's going to have to do. The
Meh.
Walrus can't go into a shell offense. They're going to have to throw.
All right, you're starting Brandon Oliver, but you're sitting Ryan Matthews. What?
Yeah, well, he's now the de facto Danny Woodhead role in that Chargers offense. So with that team playing from behind mostly, and this is more of a PPR call, I wouldn't really be that excited in standard leagues. I could easily see him coming away with 6 to 7 catches for about 60 to 70 yards. It's not exciting, but it all depends on what you have going at running back at this point in the year. If you're dealing with injuries, I would start him in that regard.
All right, Roy Halou. I could see why you'd start him, just because there's no one else that's going to get the ball there.
Yeah. Well, Vegas does predict the Colts to win by 10 points, basically. So at some point, this game is going to turn in which Alfred Morris isn't involved. Or possibly could turn where Alfred Morris isn't involved because he's not going to be involved in the passing game, which puts it on Roy Halou. Colt McCoy, we know he's a check down master. So I could easily see Roy in there for the passing downs the rest of the way and having a similar game to what Brandon Oliver, the description I had with him. And you're hoping for a junk time touchdown at that point.
Yeah, I could see that. Devontae Adams. I've started this guy a couple times this year. I'm a little bit gun shy now. Why are you starting him this week?
New England is very good at forcing your hand. They want to force you away from your main targets.
It's because they're geniuses with rocket science degrees.
So you've got, A-Rod's comfort zone is Jordy and Cobb. I think we're going to see a lot of 3 wide receiver sets from them, and he's going to be looking to his second or third option, and that's Devontae is going to be heavily involved in that respect. He's been very game flow dependent, and this one screams that he's going to be involved.
You got 10 seconds. Tell me why you're starting Jermaine Gresham.
Uh, ugh, wow. I don't even have a good reason. You're not starting Kobe Fleener. How about that?
There you go. 10 seconds. Love it. Perfect timing. All right, brother, listen. Here's what I want you to do.
Yeah.
I want you to buy a razor and some gel.
And some
please.
gel.
Can you just come on 1 week with your hair gelled back? Can you do that for me?
Just gel back, straight back, doing the Pat Riley? Is that what you're
Yeah,
wanting?
give me a Pat Riley or, a little part if you want. But we got to get out of here. We're parting right now.
All right.
But we'll be back Monday with Jay Run. All right, he's Sky_Razzball. I'm Nick Capozzi. We'll talk to you Monday. Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Enjoy the turkey leftovers.